What's up? Morning. I promised to start going live a little more, and I haven't been doing it. Past couple of weeks was a little busy, but I got a long drive in front of me this morning, so I said I might as well spend some time on the live. Don't mind my GPS. I really don't need it for where I'm going, but this time in the morning it's traffic, so if I could avoid the traffic I have on the GPS, so just bear with me if it
take the I-380 South ramp, then merge onto I-380 South.
It should only pop up for a couple more times before I have a long stretch in front of me, but that weather we had was crazy. And that was part of the reason why I wasn't able to
continue on I-380 South for 2 miles.
My drives that I normally take because I was so busy working. But things are looking good. I just finished chapter 15 in Dogs of the Wild 3. So chapter 15 is done. Dogs of the Wild 3 is coming together. I'm very excited about how it's looking. As I've stated before in some of my videos, you know, it's a little, the flow is going, but it's a little difficult because you have to cross-reference a lot of things from the previous 2 books, and it's been over 10 years since I wrote book 1, and book 2, it's been over 6 years since I finished book 2, so even though book 2 launched in 2023, I finished writing book 2 in 2020, and book 1 I finished in 2012, so a lot of things have happened since then, and for me to remember everything, it's a little difficult. So I have to go back and cross-reference, see some things that I had to change, and make sure that it made sense. But
in half a mile, use the left 2 lanes to take exit 1B for I-80 East towards Stroudsburg.
I'm looking for a launch date of October 18, 2026. So let's see. That's the deadline I've given myself to launch, and let's see if I can keep that deadline. I'm excited.
Use the left 2 lanes to take exit 1B.
I think I got a couple more months of writing. Then the poor editor has to go through my work. But I'm going to, when I finish writing it, I'm going to speak it into my tablet for the editing, and once I speak it into the tablet, I'll edit it myself, which I've gotten better at. You know, I've stated numerous times my grammar is horrible. I've never been a grammar kid. I love to read. I love to read, but I've never been one to use big words. I've never been one that was on point with my grammar, but over the years I've noticed it's gotten better. I've been able to correct myself on a lot of things, especially my grammar, you know, and it just shows you that when you work on something you get better. So that's the plan. I edit it and then I send it to the professional editor, and once that's done, then I send it to the proofreader, and ready to go. I need to get with Derwin and start to get my illustrations going. I have a cover idea that I really should have put out already. Honestly, I need to talk to Derwin and get this cover going. I've had this cover idea in my head for a couple of years, so it's just to get with Derwin Graphics and explain to him what I think and get it out there. I'm actually at the part, I just wrapped up the part in book 3 which the cover is going to be based on, so I really should have the cover out there and get it going. I didn't do a launch for my last book, It's Your Son Ready to Leave Home. I need to do a launch for that, and then I need to do a launch for Dogs of the Wild 3. I'm going to do a launch for Dogs of the Wild 3, but it's exciting stuff. Especially with what's going on in New York and New Jersey, all the studios that are being built on the East Coast. I just did a video about the 3 studios in New Jersey that are being built. 1888, Netflix Studios, and Lionsgate are all building studios in New Jersey, and it's a great opportunity Brooklyn has a monster studio that it's building. Chelsea in Manhattan. Is it Chelsea? Don't quote me, but Manhattan has a monster studio that it's opening up. Queens has studios. Yonkers has another Lionsgate is in Yonkers. So the studios are there. Why are the studios there? Because entertainment is king. Entertainment is king. We live in a society that loves to be entertained, man. Movies, television shows, YouTube, binge watching. You know, we're couch potato society. So if you can create, it's your time to put it out there. You know. So when I go and I talk to students, I talk to educators, I let them know the ideas that are in their heads can be life-changing. I'm going to beat that drum until the sticks break. And what's going on in society is just showing you that creators are it's your time. It's your time, creators. So I jumped on the live this morning because I want to talk to my people that are still on TikTok, my creators that are still on TikTok. This is basically for creators, you know. I've been on this ownership wave for a few years now, and every time one of these platforms have flipped the script and made it so that they can now take ownership of your work, I talk about it. So I did a 13-minute video on TikTok, on the TikTok update the other day. That's on my YouTube page, that's on my Instagram, all my Instagram pages. The video is up there. And it needs to be shared because a lot of people don't realize that they're giving away their work for free. You know, so it's up there. It's a 13-minute video. It's one of the longer videos in recent memory that I've put up. But you have until February 21st is your 30 days is up. So what it is you have 30 days if you agreed to the terms and agreements, the update on TikTok. If you agree to it, you have 30 days to void that agreement. You know, there are a lot of influencers that are up all over Instagram saying there's nothing that can be done because they've never same as agreeing to the terms and agreement. So I got the pop-up. I read the pop-up, and I didn't see anything about ownership. It's not until a friend of mine sent me a video with the influencer breaking it down, how in depth the terms and agreement went, that I went back and I started looking it up, and I couldn't understand why I did not see this when I agreed to the terms and agreement, because I read the terms and agreement. So I'm chalking it up to me being tired. I was working some overtime. I'm chalking it up to me being tired. But I read the terms and agreement. What I didn't do, which is what I normally do, is go to Google and ask if this particular platform is trying to own your work if you stay on the platform, and see what Google tells me. But I didn't do that for this. I actually read the terms and I didn't see it. So once I realized that I messed up, in signing the agreement, I had to figure out how to void that contract, and you have 30 days. So from January 22nd, which is when the contract went into effect, you have until February 21st to void that contract. And it's not difficult, just you have to do it, or else when your stuff blows, they're going to be making sure that they're benefiting off of the work that you put in and not compensating. So I say these platforms are the new record labels: Amazon, CapCut, add Tik Tok to the mix, Spotify. These are the new record labels. So you know how you heard from the 1940s all the way through the 1990s that these record labels were taking your publishing rights, they were taking your ownership, and they weren't compensating you properly for it. This is what these platforms are doing. They're the new record labels. But what's worse about these platforms is a lot of times, especially in like the 90s, the record labels gave you in advance. They gave you some upfront money. Now, if you blew that money, whatever it is you did with that money, that's on you. But they did give upfront money, even if it was a small amount. You agreed to the contract. They did give upfront money. These platforms are not giving you any upfront money. They're just taking your work. They're just making you sign the agreement without reading, because people do not read. People do not read. And they're making you sign the agreement, or you're signing the agreement, because they're not making you sign anything. You're signing the agreement, and now they own your work. Now they own your work. So a big beef of mine, problem that I have with education in the public school system is nobody's teaching our students about this. Our students are graduating high school and they're not prepared for the real world of 2026. They're graduating them from high school prepared for the real world of 1990. They're still pushing hip hop and sports on these students like if it's 1990. New York City, especially New York City, is not producing any athletes out of the public school system. It's a whole different topic, but you have to have that DNA. That DNA is very important, and nobody's talking about the DNA. These athletes are the supreme beings on earth, and DNA is very important, and nobody's telling our students like this. But New York City is not producing. New York City public school is not producing any athletes like they used to. And nobody's telling the students that. Also, they're not telling the students that 80% of the athletes go broke. So when these athletes come into the schools, they bend over backwards to get the athletes into the school. They're not telling them that 80% of them go broke, because nobody wants to look like if failure is still happening. But a lot of our athletes, 80% of them go broke because they don't have the education to manage the huge amount of money that comes their way. So they're not telling them about the DNA. They're not telling them about the financial literacy that they're lacking. And they're not preparing these students for the real world. You get students that are graduating high school that have never had a debate, that have never did a mock job interview. They don't know what NDAs are. They don't know what litigation is. They don't know what branding is. They don't know what marketing is. And idea what nutrition is. So they're graduating them the same way they graduated. Not a clue with how the real world functions. You know? You're graduating them to get a job, go to school and get a job. And, you know, unfortunately in this world, that's not what it's all about. Especially when you have so many aspiring creators. I go into a classroom and a lot of them want to be YouTubers. They want to be YouTubers. They want to be influencers and creators. They want to be in music. And you're encouraging them, but you're not telling them to learn the business side. And the business side is very important. I had to learn the business side of being an author because I failed at my first Kickstarter. Was it Kickstarter? I believe it was a Kickstarter. Yeah, it was a Kickstarter. A Kickstarter is when they fund your project. So I had my first Kickstarter. 2 people supported.
Continue on I-80 East for 66
Mulaney,
miles.
My good friend Mulaney from childhood, and Mimi. 2 people that supported my Kickstarter, and it was a blessing in disguise because from that Kickstarter I realized the publishing company that I was trying to raise the money for to pay. Now, if you know anything about publishing, raising money to pay a publishing company doesn't make any sense. It makes absolutely 0 sense. So I was raising $6,000 to pay this publishing company, and in me failing at the Kickstarter is when I realized that I was being robbed. So I didn't get the Kickstarter funding. I think I was trying to go for $8,000. I didn't get the Kickstarter funding, and then I said, all right, I'll just work and get the money on my own. And in me trying to raise the money on my own, I realized that this publishing company was trying to rob me. And that's when I started to learn the business. I had another publishing company try to rob me, and I actually went through with a proof for them. They actually did my first copyright for me in my name, but that could have went all the way left if I had let them copyright it, you know, because I didn't know what I was doing. But they were trying to rob me, and I didn't go with them because when I went to at Nikki Does My Hair and showed her the first proof, she leaned over my shoulder and said, you know, I wouldn't buy that book if I didn't know you, because the book didn't look good. You know, then the price they were trying to charge me for the book, and that's when I stumbled upon Derek Grace, and Derek Grace was a successful self-published independent author, and I started looking into what it is that he was doing, and then I signed up for him for a consultation. Back then he was doing $299 consultation for half an hour to an hour or something along those lines. He doesn't do that anymore, but in his first few minutes he put me in touch with his printing company, and to this day that's who I print my books with. I'm not on Amazon, I'm not on Spotify, I'm not on Shopify, I'm not on doesn't begin and end in hip hop, but when you have people that are in positions of authority and they're infatuated with hip hop, squeeze between these two trucks here. They're infatuated with hip hop. You know, they're still pushing hip hop on these students. Like hip hop is the only way. Hip hop is one of the ways. And don't get me wrong, there's still money in hip hop. I did a post on Kendrick Lamar. I think he made over $400 million touring last year, $300 million touring last year. Wu-Tang Clan, a group that's been out for 30 years, made almost $30 million touring. In like 27 shows or something like that. They made $30 million touring. So there is money in hip hop, but you have to know how to curate that money. You know, if you're putting your music on these streaming platforms because that's what you know as the way to go, you're already behind the 8 ball. When you can create your own website, pay your monthly service fee or your yearly fee for the website, and have people pay for your music directly through you. You use those platforms to build up your name, YouTube and so forth, but you direct them to your website to pay you. Why are you going on these platforms and they're giving you 3 cents, 1 cent, 1.5 cents for your music? Is that what your music is worth? Is that what your creation is worth? A penny and a half? 3 pennies? You know, you put your music on your own platform, your fans are gonna buy it. But you have to build your platform, you have to build your base, you have to maintain your platform, set it up that people can buy music directly from you. You know, they're paying $7.99 for your song, $2.99 for your song, whatever you want to charge them for your song. You know, I don't know what the numbers are off of my head, but in my course I talk about it. I talk about the Kevin Blaze is doing it, then I could do it. And this is what I want to install in these students' mindset. Is that if it could be done by them, why can't it be done by you? This is exactly what I want to install. When I show up to talk to students, I could wear a suit and tie. They're seeing suit and ties every day. They're not seeing somebody that comes from where they come from, sat in the same seats that they sat in with their own brand and their own logo. So now it's starting conversations. What is that on your chest? What is that on your back? Now I can go in and show them how merchandising is a multi-billion-dollar industry. Going back to Wu-Tang Clan, their logo was making $25 million a year. Just their logo alone, when they were at the peak of their music, their logo was making $25 million a year. I just got a Wu-Tang Clan shirt for my birthday last year. It's a birthday gift because I had mentioned that I never had one. I always liked it. And I got one for my birthday last year. So people are still buying the Wu-Tang Clan logo 30 years after this group burst on the scene. With an original style, an original flavor, original sound. That was key, original. Not trying to sound like everyone else, trying to be like everybody else. They were original, not trying to mimic. Like if it's done already, what makes you think, and it's hot right now, what makes you think people want to hear the same thing coming from you? You have to be original. Or try to be as original as possible. But this mimic and imitate and follow, that ain't it. That is not it. Getting back to the point of, now I'm talking to them about Shrek. Now I'm showing up with my logo and my brand. Now it's putting the real world into their mindset. Walmart is a name. Kmart is a name. Walgreens, these are names. These are last names that are brands. Dwayne Reed, these are names that are brands. So now they see Kevin Blaze with his logo, with his brand, building it up. I have the tangible work. And then, wait a minute. All right, this is bigger than just my music. Because if I'm writing music and my music is good, then people are going to want to wear my brand. They're going to want to wear my logo. So now that night, they're brainstorming with their team and they're creating their logo. He's calling his artist friend, or he's getting online and he's doing his logo himself online. And now he's expanding his imagination from just hip-hop or just music to a brand. But if nobody's explaining this to the students, how are they going to know? How are they going to know? When they see Kevin Blaze and they see my logo is fire. I talk about my logo all the time. Everywhere I go, I love my logo. And I've got a couple different logos. I got my promotion team logo is fire. Them boys. Childhood friend, part of them boys, Tony, created the logo. I think it was Tony and Ian did the logo. Two guys in the group did the logo. That logo is fire. I sent my idea to Derwin Graphics for my logo for Dogs of the Wild. Fire. But it's bigger than just the idea. It's a whole brand that you're putting out there, and students need to understand this. And then in the course, we go from creating the logo to now ownership of the logo, trademarking the logo. Because if you're out there and you're fire and your stuff is not being protected, there are people that are going to trademark your work. And now they own your name, they own your brand. nobody would like it. Who cares if nobody likes it? Who cares? Nobody likes it, then so what? 7 billion people on Earth. You think everybody's gonna like your work? I had a friend tell me the other day that my latest book, Is Your Son Ready to Leave Home? He thinks the title is misleading. That's cool. I've had other people tell me they love it. So everybody is not going to like your work, and you have to be okay with that. You have to be okay with that. You cannot be scared of that. So now you're in a position of authority where young minds are looking up to you and you have no confidence in yourself. How does that work? Zero confidence in yourself and young minds are looking up to you. It doesn't add up. The math is not mathing. There's no way you should be in front of students as a leader and you have zero confidence in yourself. There's no way that should be happening. And there's a lot of that going on because the amount of educators that I've spoken to that have asked me, how do you deal with no? Somebody telling you no. Well, it's 100, it's 1,000 no's to 1 yes. Especially when nobody knows who you are. It's 1,000 no's to 1 yes, man. I would go out on the street corner with my table, my books, and I'd be out there like if I'm talking to myself, because the amount of people that just walk right by you and don't acknowledge you, that you're talking to them and asking them to come and check your work, and they don't acknowledge you. And the ones that do acknowledge you, that just blow you off, the ones that say no thank you, it's 1,000 no's to 1 yes. But when you pack it up at the end of the day and you walk out of there with $300, you sold 15 books, you sold 11 books, you sold 10 books. These no's are always more than yes. And it's alright. You have to, I tell entrepreneurs, I tell young people, no just means not over. N-O just means not over. So just keep going. You let people that have never created anything in their life discourage you because they told you no. They're not into that type of work. It's all right. So these are the kind of lessons that students need to hear going forth in the real world. I had to learn all this stuff late in life. I finished. We're in 2026. I finished book 1 14 years ago. I think I was 32 years old, 34 years old when I finished book 1, and had no clue what to do after that. And the only thing that kept me going was that because I read a lot, I knew what I liked. And when I reread book 1, I was like, yo, this is fire. This was good. And I've read book 1 7 or 8 times. And every time I read it, I had a smile on my face. Like, you really did a phenomenal job. But what's the next step? Because when I wrote the book, I didn't have any intention on putting the book out there. I had a different idea for a book that I planned on putting out, and I still haven't written that book, but I had a different idea for a book. So I never knew I was going to be a fictional writer. I never knew that. I had the book that I wanted to write was an awareness book, and I took a chance on a fictional book, and then I realized that I was good at it. Nobody ever told me I could be a writer. I never had an intention to be a writer. I never grew up thinking I'm going to be an author. So now I wrote the book and didn't know where to go from there. And from 2012 to 2018 was kind of a dry spell. I did start writing book 2 in that time frame. I started writing book 2, I think, in 2018. And 2018 is about the time that I started getting the wheels going on really getting book 1 out. I saw a good movie and I knew it was a book, I'd go read the book, because the book is always better than the movie. I had never known what Lord of the Rings was. I saw the first movie, I realized it was a book. I went and got all the books, read all the books. It's more than just the Lord of the Rings series. You know? So I never knew that I was going to be an author. When I finished book 1, clueless about what had to be done after that. And then I started learning the business. I started going into the business of what you do as you become an author, and to become an author. And I realized that Amazon is not the way for me to go. You know, something was just off about Amazon to me. And then when I realized he never wrote a book, yet he started his platform on books. But no. So I went the old-fashioned route. I went studied Master P and how Master P did his work and selling out of the book, out of the trunk of his car. And that's what I would do before work. In the mornings, I would go out different locations and I would set up and I would sell my books. And I was selling a lot of books. I was selling over 50 books a week. Just a few hours a day out in the street, 50 books a week, and that's how I was paying my 2 older kids tuition. You know, I was paying $1,000 a week, $500 for each of them. So the goal was to sell 50 books a week so that I could pay it cash. I was paying $500 a week for each of them. So it's $1,000 a week that I was paying for them, and I was still selling my books out on the street. You know, I've pulled back from doing that now because I'm getting my name out there. I'm networking. I'm meeting people that can do some bulk orders, showing my courses, and going for contracts and getting my name out there, introducing myself to educators and districts and schools so that I could get in front of students, as opposed to going out there and selling one book at a time. But I know that I can do that. On Saturdays, I was out there selling 11, 12 books in a couple of hours. And that's how I was paying for their education, so they wouldn't have to take out loans. I was paying their education cash through my work. So I know that I can go out there and sell books. But me selling one book at a time, I don't need to do that right now. I need to get contracts, bulk orders. I want my books to be curriculum all throughout the United States, the same way Call of the Wild was curriculum. I want it to be like that, the same way all throughout the United States. And educators have to realize that every single book is not education. You have to give the students something they enjoy reading. Stop making every single thing about education. You're taking the fun out of learning. It's more like a task as opposed to enjoying learning. Like when you learn new things, it's supposed to be enjoyable. It's not. Making it boring. I was at an event a couple weeks ago with an educator from a school, and she said, we brought a couple authors in, and the students can't relate to them. She said she thinks I would relate to the students. I said, definitely I would relate to the students, because everything is not about your book. I'm talking to you guys for how long? 40 minutes? And did I even talk about my book yet? Like, do you know the characters in my book? You haven't heard anything about my book. Because everything is not about your book. I would love my books. My books are going to be curriculums all throughout the United States. And that's what I'm using to propel my work, to get eyes on it, so now we can get it to the movies. I'll partner with whoever and get the work into a trilogy movie, which is the end goal for the books. But it'd be foolish for me to go into a school never heard of me. They may not be interested in the type of book that I have. You know, not everybody is interested in Dogs Against Wolves. Not everybody's interested in that. Some people hear dogs and they're like, man, I don't want to hear about no dog. It's not only dogs. It's Dogs Against Wolves. There's gorillas, there's lions, there's tigers, there's eagles, there's foxes, there's bears, there's all kind of animals in the book. There's so many characters in the book. But again, it'd be foolish of me to just go in there and just start talking about my book and not talk about anything else. So I talk a little bit about my book, you know, get them interested. I show them the illustrations inside of it because visuals are very important. I know that visuals are very important. So, but then I talk about why aren't you guys writing? I talk about Ice Cube. And Ice Cube went from rapper to actor to movie writer to director, and all of that because he knew how to rap. So if you can write a rap, you can write a movie. You can write a rap, you can write you can direct a movie.
Traffic is getting worse. You will now arrive at 9:29 a.m.
So my traffic is getting worse. I was supposed to arrive at 9:18, 9:15, and now it's 9:29. So maybe it'll ease up a little. We'll see. But the event starts at 11 o'clock, and you know me, I like to get everywhere early, get in there and set up, especially if I don't know where I'm going. Give yourself some time to set up. But yeah, it would be foolish of me to get in there and just talk all about my work, especially when nobody knows. Kevin Hart comes into a class. He can talk all about his work. People know him. They're fans of his. They've seen his work. They go to his shows. They watch him on Instagram. But Kevin Blaze pulls up in front of you. What's this guy, man? Why's his shirt so bright? Why's his hoodie so bright? You know, they don't know who Kevin Blaze is. So why would I sit there and bore them to death with only my work? The goal is not only my work. The goal is also to get them in a mindset that they can create and not box themselves in. You know, our work doesn't revolve around power and empire. One, there's no money in those kind of shows. It box you into a certain demographic that nothing is going on in that demographic, honestly. So it's really a shame, but it's work. It's creative. And some people are interested in it. To me, it's not something that I would push for our students to look to get involved in. You know, power and empire are not multi-billion-dollar franchises like the franchises I spoke about earlier. Take a family of 4 to go see How to Train a Dragon. You know, taking a family of 4 to go see how. So I don't want to box our students in to that kind of writing. Like if that's all that we can do when they have amazing imagination. You know, and that power and empire, it's entertaining. I'm not going to sit here and act like it's not entertaining. Let's not box our students into that. Let's not make them think that that's all that they can do, or that's the only way that they can get it popping, because now is the time that studios are looking for new ideas, they're looking for new IPs, they're looking for new creators, they're looking for new writers. But you have to start, you have to put the work out there. And if nobody's showing them that the work has to be put out there, how to put the work out there, or that they can do the work, then they're going to stop thinking that the only kind of work that they can do is what they're seeing on TV, what they're hearing on the radio. And it's a great disservice to our students, because our young students have such amazing minds, amazing ideas. You know how great it is to walk into a school and see young kids like showcasing their brilliance, but then you go into a school and they're at events, they have dance competitions. Brilliant minds, but they have a dance competition at the events. Alright, dancing is cool, but what about these brilliant minds? Where's the math competition? Where's the spelling bees to reward the brilliant minds, as opposed to having the brilliant minds sit down when the people are dancing, making it seem like if dancing is the only thing that gets the attention, when the brilliant minds are the ones that make the world go round. You go into a school and you see young brilliant minds, man, it's so rewarding. It's so rewarding because especially in the inner city schools, you have young intelligent minds. They just need to see more options and opportunities. I'm one of them. That can show them different options and opportunities that are out there. But I've been ranting to you guys long enough. Sorry I can't interact with anybody that's on the live because I am driving, so gotta keep my eyes on the road. It's been real. I'm gonna try to start to do some more lives. I got a different phone holder, so I can get different angles when I'm driving. I think it's pretty dope. I didn't set it up this morning. I was running a little behind schedule, so eventually I'll set it up. Jump on, do some more lives, talk about things. But TikTok, all my creators that are on TikTok, you need to get off of that. If you have a brand that you're trying to take it to the next level, TikTok is not the way to go. Whoever recently purchased TikTok is not what it used to be. And I've only been on TikTok for a couple of years. I had a profile on there. I don't even know where that profile went. I had to start a new one. Started the new one, and now this one is taking over, and I had to deactivate the account. But if you have your books, you have your characters, you have your dreams of taking your work to the world, you got to get off of TikTok, because TikTok has this mindset that everything should be theirs and nothing should be yours. You should own nothing. So, like I said in the 13-minute video, you got to get some boots to ground kind of activity going if you want to get your work out there, because these platforms are not it. They want to own your work and not compensate you. So non-creators are not going to understand that. If you're not a creator, don't have a brand, you're not trying to get your work to movies, television shows, if you're not trying to do those kind of things, then by all means stay on TikTok. For my creators,
in half a mile, take exit 1 for New Road toward Edwards Road.
For my creators that are looking to take their work to the next level and get contracts and make deals with major studios and get your stuff into the movies and TV shows, TikTok is not where you want to be. TikTok, CapCut, Spotify, Avian, these are all platforms that want to own your work.
Take exit 1.
And not compensate you. So it is a big deal. It's not just sharing. They don't want to just share your work. They want to own your work and create things.
At the next next light, turn left.
Because they have no creative bones in their body. So
at the light, turn left onto New Road.
The best thing they can do is steal your work. And I think I made a wrong turn here because I was not listening to maps, and I went the route that I normally go, but I think it's taking me to an alternate route which has less traffic. But I'm at a red light here, so I will be talking to you guys later. Thanks for tuning in, and you have a great day. Everyone have a great day.